Welcome to another episode Pound for Pound Boxing Report. We were off last week, but we are back. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail from Communities Digital News, Jacob from The Inscriber. What's going on, folks?
Hey, it's good to be back. The
Hello.
boxing may not be hot, but we are.
And indeed. Got a lot to go to talk about. For those with new Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report live YouTube show, podcast, as well as blog discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When boxing is bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, we will talk about it. If you want to find out any and all information regarding Pound for Pound Box Report, blog page is the best place to go to. p4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. Check the right of the blog page. You'll find not only links to our channels and pages on Facebook, G Plus, YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr. Also, you'll find links to where to listen to the show. SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Player FM for the folks in the UK, as well as Mixcloud. Let's get the show started. Going back 2 weeks here to talk about some boxing that we didn't that we that we didn't not pay attention to, but that happened while we were off. I want to start off in Japan, Tokyo to be specific. Among us hardcore heads, a lot of folks were looking forward to this bout between Jamie McDonnell, who was traveling over to Japan to defend his WBA regular bantamweight title against Naoya Inoue, who's been a sensation over the past 3-4 years amongst the lighter weights. First at 108, then 115, and now at 118. When Inoue decided to move up to 118 following his U.S. debut on Superfly 2, he received a lot of criticism. He decided to move up to 118 pounds, and not only did he beat McDonnell, not only did he knock out Jamie McDonnell, he completely bodied this dude, took him apart in less than a minute and a half, put him down twice, boom, bap, it was over. Starting ladies first, Gail, I would argue that one, he might have erased a lot of the criticisms for his decision to move up to 118 pounds, foregoing a possible fight with Srisakat Sorwangwasai at 115. But the way he disposed McDonnell, and subsequently his announcement that he's entering the World Boxing Super Series Bantamweight tournament, that erased that. And dare I say, this is arguably the top performance, the most impressive performance of the year so far in 2018. Your thoughts, Gail?
Pretty close to the top. It's certainly the most spectacular, sort of a jaw-dropping, whoa kind of fight, all 2.5 minutes of it. No question he can handle the weight and then some. Jamie McDonnell, not the top of the division, clearly, but still, you expect a guy like that to put up some resistance, be competitive, go some rounds, especially since he rehydrated up so much bigger than Inoue. The monster does not care. The monster's attitude is the bigger they are, the harder they fall. He went right after him. He obviously saw something that he knew he could handle and decided, I'm just going to go right in and take care of business. And he did. And if you were like me and woke up at 4:00, dark something or other on the West Coast, enjoyed actually also a very action-packed undercard fight, and then watched this for a few minutes, your reaction was, wow, that's impressive. Oh, that was great. What the hell did I get up so early for? Could have seen that on YouTube in 2 hours. But, it was worth it. And bravo, on a side note, to ESPN for offering it via their ESPN Plus app. Folks, for your $5, at least for my $5 a month so far, I have been completely satisfied. I can blow $5 in a lot of ways and don't even look back at it for little trifles here and there. $5 for a month of boxing entertainment, absolutely great. And unfortunately, the way HBO has so little to offer these days, save your $14.95 if you're paying for HBO just for boxing. If you're not watching any other series, put it towards your ESPN Plus app. And we'll be talking about a fight being offered this weekend on that app that you might want to look into.
Another example of HBO getting his butt whooped. I bet they regret not having any boxing until August now, given what we've seen the past couple of weeks, given what we've seen coming.
Yeah. And on a side note, off on a tangent, if they don't scoop up Anthony Joshua, which it looks like HBO is going to do, they're in a world of hurt if they don't do that.
Oh, that's the only thing they can do, given the situation with Canelo and Triple G. We'll talk about that later, but I want to focus on this battle a little bit more. I'll go to you, Jacob, and then you can follow up Daniel from the inscriber has joined us as well. Jacob, I'll go to you from Jab Hook. Here's the thing. What makes the fact that he took apart McDonnell even more impressive. I know people will talk about, well, McDonnell was struggling to make the weight, and that was true, but I'll reference something that Chris Caban, shout out to Chris Caban. I was part of kind of live watching the show with the homie Now to TV and from Now to Boxing, excuse me, on his channel. He noted that McDonnell, he got in the ring. B, he's been having issues for the past 2-3 fights, and he still fought on. So you can't give him any excuses. I say all that to say this. McDonnell, and I've never seen a case of this, Jacob, he put on 26 pounds from the weigh-in into the fight. In other words, he weighed in at 118 pounds on the official weigh-in, but entered the ring at 144 pounds. So in short, Inoue took apart a guy who was technically a welterweight when he got in the ring. Your thoughts on that, Jacob, and then you follow up, Daniel.
Yeah, for me, I mean, no excuses. I mean, you signed the paper and you made weight, you did your job there. And if you hydrate up that much, like I don't want to hear any excuses. And I didn't watch too much of the post fight, so I don't know if he did make any excuses, but Inoue just completely, impressed, or he should have impressed everybody. I mean, he's already been an impressive guy with the amount of fights that he's had and what he's been able to do. And, his entrance into the World Boxing Super Series, where we could potentially see a Tete Inoue fight, has my mouth watering. But, that's for a later conversation. But, I mean, he completely destroyed McDonnell, who I think he's not the greatest champion, but he should have given more of a fight, and he just didn't have any answers for the relentless attack. And once he got hit, being 20 plus pounds heavier, I mean, he couldn't handle it, and he looked like he didn't know what to do, and he almost looked like he panicked in a way. But I mean, he just got destroyed. So Inoue did what he needed to do, and I mean, really, you can try to give excuses, but there is no excuses. I mean, the proof's there, in the ring. And Inoue's, this guy's for real. This guy's got power. He's got drive, and everybody better look out. And I hope he stays active, and we get to see the World Boxing Super Series has been a great. This first 2 rounds or first 2 weight classes they did, was great, and it's not over yet, but I can't wait for that cruiserweight fight to happen. So, I mean, I'm excited for what he's going to bring to the table in that Super Series.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
Quick, efficient, and predictable in a way. When you balloon that much, when you've been trying to fight a welterweight and you balloon to a welterweight, we know it's not muscle. We know it's going to be mostly flub. And a good body puncher is going to take care of that, which Inoue did. What I like about the fact is that in this fight is he did it at the right time. Right when they made the announcement of the World Boxing Super Series. Right when so far this series has gotten the finals that mostly everybody has wanted in both divisions. And obviously with this division around, Tete Inoue is a tantalizing final. Unless they make the mistake of putting them both on the same side of the bracket. Which I surely hope not. But I love the way it was done. I love the way that Inoue remained cool on all of this. He didn't get too overly excited. He did the job efficiently. He did it cleanly. And he did it from a boxer that is twice his age, has twice the fights and twice the experience. That's what I like most about the kid. His experience in the ring doesn't show as far as lack thereof. It actually shows how much mature he is for a fighter that young. And I'm looking forward to great things about it. And like Gail pointed out when I jumped in, this is a great addition, like I said, for ESPN for $4.99 a month. Yes, I get it. Some of the interfaces are a little bit wonky. It does crash, but that's pretty much how Bantech works. It takes them a bit to fill all that content. They had the same issues when they did the WWE app, when they did the MLB app for a while. So it's going to get better. And with more fights coming in, when neither Showtime or HBO is willing to spend the money to get the rights for these fights, ESPN is going to make a killing. If I were newest people, or if I were Sultan, I would probably try to consider putting the World Boxing Super Series on the ESPN Plus app.
Okay, you alluded to, and I mentioned it as well. What happened after the fight? They asked Inoue his future, and he said that he was offered an invitation to World Boxing Super Series, and he's accepted the World Boxing that invitation. Zolane Tete, who's going to also be a part of the World Boxing Super Series bantamweight tournament as part of season 2 of the World Boxing Super Series, went to Twitter and congratulated him for the fight on his performance, and said, "Look forward to seeing you in the tournament." And Inoue was basically, his response was basically, "As do I. Hope to see you soon." Let's face it. Let's just put it out there. Tete Inoue is the fight that we all eventually want to see, right? At in this tournament. Yes, there are other fighters in this tournament, but Tete Inoue, that's the matchup. So I'm just going to open up here to everybody. Your thoughts on Inoue deciding to enter this bantamweight tournament, which on paper, from the 4 fighters that we know are going to be on there, Burnett, Inoue, Tete, the guy, I can't remember his name, Emmanuel Rodriguez, who beat Butler to win the IBF belt in impressive fashion. This bantamweight tournament looks to be really, really stacked, really, really loaded. Your thoughts, and anybody who wants to jump in, please do.
I'm loving it. Inoue is fearless. You know, he isn't a guy who seems to be worried, dancing around the O on his record. He wants to engage. I mean, look how aggressive he was. He just wants to get in there and mix it up. And the fans in the end are not going to remember a loss here and there on his record if what they truly remember is that aggression, that attitude, that, you know, bring it on, I'll take on anybody, size doesn't matter kind of guy, you know, just in it. And he'll win far more than he loses ever, even overmatched, which at this point would be hard to do. With any opponent, he's always going to have a chance. I just think it's a brilliant move. And we have to remember, you know, I frequently remind myself among this crowd here, we're pretty hardcore. Most of the world has not had a handshake introduction to the monster just yet. And this is a great way for him to do it quickly. So good move. I approve and I applaud it.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I would want to see this fight even if there wasn't a tournament. But they've done such great things with getting, you know, competitive participants within the tournament, and you know, a lot of them, you know, specifically in the cruiserweight tournament, where they've been able to, you know, when they have this last fight, they're going to be able to unify the division. There's going to be 4 belts on the line, or the 4 major belts on the line. So, you know, bring some clarity. And, you know, even the losses, you know, even the people that lost in the tournament, there's some mix and matches that they could do there. So with this tournament, you know, even if, you know, somebody surprises us and beats either Tete or Inoue, or unless, you know, hopefully they don't get matched up early, like Daniel said, and they'll make that mistake. But, you know, I think it's nothing but good for boxing. You know, somebody can come and beat an Inoue or a Tete, then, you know, you get your chance to, you know, put yourself out there to be potentially one of the greats, right? You know, so this format and this, you know, the way it's been shaping out, nothing but smiles from my end. And, you know, like, I can't wait. You know, it's just good for boxing, and it gets me excited again. And we've had, you know, we had a really good last year, and this year has been shaping up to be very nice also.
And this also, I'm about to say, sorry, Mike, this does also quiet down a lot of the criticisms that Inoue has received in the way he's moved up in weight. Because one of the criticisms that he's had was he's moving up in weight just as the division he was in was starting to get hot. And it was to do with this again when he moved to the bantamweight from Superfly. He's going into a tournament now where the point of this is to get pretty much a consensus champion at bantamweight. So this is a great introduction. And I'll say it again: if someone are smart, I know it worked pretty well, the streaming for the last few fights. But if they're smart, they would try to do something with ESPN. They would try to put this on the app somewhere, because then automatically you're going to get so many more eyes on it, and it'll help out the division overall.
Okay, this kind of this fight took place 2 weeks ago on Friday. On the following day, you had like a doubleheader on ESPN Plus at 115 pounds, headlined by Jerwin Ancajas. He fought Jonas, Sultan, an all-Filipino matchup. On the undercard of that was Yafai fighting David Carmona. I want to focus on the Ancajas fight first. I'm going to go to you, Daniel. I took part of your show maybe a week or so ago with Francis and Joe from 4 Boxing, and Ancajas won. Wasn't the most action packed bout, but Ancajas, he did what he had to do to beat Sultan, won by unanimous decision. I'm gonna ask you the question here that I asked you and Francis and Joe on your show. In watching this, can we stop making this comparison between Ancajas and Manny Pacquiao? But because I've said it before and I'll say it again, I just don't think they are similar fighters. Just because they're both Filipino and just because they're Southpaw does not mean that they fight the same. Your thoughts?
Exactly, but unfortunately, that doesn't translate well to a casual fan, and it doesn't really translate well when it comes to Filipino fans in a way, because, and we've talked about this various times on this show and others. In the Philippines, they're trying to find the next Pacquiao. They're more like Puerto Ricans were still trying to find the next Tito. It's something that they have to cling on to, even though from a boxing standpoint, Ancajas at that weight is a better boxer than what Manny was at that weight. And he's a little bit more patient than Manny was at that weight. Now, unfortunately, the comparison is going to continue because, number one, he signed with Top Rank and Manny as a co-promoters. So the comparison is always going to unfortunately be there. And number two, that's how ESPN does things. ESPN sells a narrative. And their narrative, right, is this is one of these guys, yet this southpaw, promoted by Manny Pacquiao, he's looking to be his heir. And unfortunately, he's in a place where they're really not going to let him be his own guy unless he accumulates the amount of success that's even halfway reasonable to what Manny did. And we've seen it before when a fighter gets compared to a mentor, sometimes it falls through. Adrian Broner's a prime example. How many times before the McDonnell fight he was called the next Floyd Mayweather? I remember the British broadcast and Adrian Broner. They called him the next superstar. This is going to be a coronation. This should be easy. And it wound up being the first of the many derailments of Adrian Broner's career. Hopefully we don't reach that point where Ancajas, because you have to let him be his own fighter. He has to develop his own style. Just because you're promoted by Manny and just because you're signed to Manny's main promoter doesn't mean that you shouldn't be compared to him. But unfortunately, like I said, it's not going to stop. As long as ESPN keeps touting it, as long as they even mention it, like Filipino, he could be the next Manny Pacquiao. And let's not forget, it overshadows guys that may deserve a little bit more light. Donnie Nietes, for example, he deserves that spotlight, but he's not going to get it because of this situation. But I do feel bad for Ancajas. I do hope he has success enough where he'll be able to outgrow Manny's shadow. Granted, nobody's really going to top Manny, at least in our lifetimes, when it comes to Filipino boxing, unless a real freak of nature comes out of there.
First you, Gail, and then you, Jacob. Your thoughts on Ancajas and his win against Sultan.
It was a fine win. I put it in the serviceable category, not a thriller. But yeah, come on, folks. How lazy do you have to be to compare this man to probably the only other Filipino fighter you've ever heard of, for most of them? We don't do that to other fighters, and we shouldn't do it to Ancajas. And it does him a disservice, because if you're going to continually hold a guy up to, one of the greatest fighters of the previous generation, that is rough. That's why so many sons suffer in comparison to famous boxing fathers. It's really not a fair thing at all for us to do. The man needs to be judged solely on his own merits, not by the fact that he shares, the fact that he's a southpaw and he's a Filipino with another fighter out there. Well, you could say that two random fighters match up because they're both from the same country and fight from the same side. This guy he's diligent. He has plenty of athletic talent. But you're comparing him with a guy who just had flashes of brilliance and at his peak could do things nobody else could do. So, he's always going to suffer if we just can't snap our heads around and judge him on his own merits, which, I think he's going to have a very hard time in his career dodging this. It's just, an unfortunate circumstance of the draw for Ancajas.
Your thoughts, Jacob?
For me, I don't like. I think Daniel said already. I don't think this is gonna stop because it's within the casual viewer or fan. They tend to want to make these comparisons. I mean, it happens with when Tito and Cotto and Verdejo. It happened with the great Mexican fighters. The Chavezes and whatnot. Even someone like Tyson, they go, oh, the next Tyson, or the comparisons always get made. And I agree with what Daniel said, is that there's a narrative they want to tell, and the best way, in my opinion, the best way for them to try to get viewers and make money is to kind of trick people and to say, hey, that guy Manny Pacquiao that everybody, that's known, kind of transcended the sport, like a Mayweather or whatever, that's done so much and, got, so many people to, watch boxing or, pay for his fights. Hey, we have a guy that's also from the Philippines and, is promoted by him. And so for me, it seems like that's the story that they want to tell, whether it's a detriment to Ancajas or not, in order to do business, to make business. I even remember when another top-ranked fighter, our previous top-ranked fighter, the Filipino Flash, Daner, he was coming up, when Manny was at his peak or whatever, when he knocked out Darchinian, and then he started doing all this crazy knockouts and doing all this stuff. He was being compared to Manny as another the heir to the Philippines, with Manny Pacquiao. So I don't think it's ever going to stop. I think it's a shrewd or whatever move to try to sell more subscriptions or get more viewers, which it's a business. Boxing's a business. We all know that. As far as the fight, I wasn't. I haven't really been too impressed with Ancajas. I think there's going to be a lot of people who are going to be disappointed if they're looking for, there isn't going to be the next Manny. But he doesn't fight like Manny, in my opinion. He's a lot different, but, I see some deficiencies in him that I could see him, taking a loss early on. But I just don't think that he has, that thing to be one of the greats, which I'll put Manny in, like the Floyds, the Mannys, things like that,
Before we move on to talk Kyle Yafai and a possible unification between Ancajas and Yafai, I want to give a shout out to Hop in the chat. Going to go back to Inoue here for one quick second. Hop in the chat mentioned he got Inoue, number 9 on his pound for pound list. I got him a bit higher. Would I be wrong in suggesting that Inoue's resume and what he has done and how he has done it is just as impressive as Lomachenko, who everybody seems to have number 1 on their pound for pound list?
Okay. Who's going to be the first one to say, Michael? Nah. Inoue is great, but he has not faced the same level of opposition. It's the old, level of opposition, sharpening the saw argument. And you've got to say that Lomachenko has put in the better overall performances against tougher opposition and different styles of opposition. And he also just beat a fighter who rehydrated up much bigger than him. And as we've now learned, managed to do it with a fairly damaged shoulder, making Lomachenko's performance against Linares even more impressive. So I'd say Inoue has all the skills and talent in the world to get there. We have to pump the brakes just a little bit until we see him step up. But if he performs in this Super Series Bantamweight tournament like he has to date, then the argument becomes a very strong one. in his favor. Then it almost is a coin toss and a matter of taste.
Jacob, Daniel, your thought. Go ahead.
I agree. I mean, I don't have Lomachenko number one. I know, when you say a lot of people do, I know you're referencing a lot of the, boxing media and stuff. They were quick to anoint him number one. I think Lomachenko is very talented. But again, he, in my opinion, hasn't had a career. He's been fast tracked and he's gotten the opportunities to fight, names. But, if you look at those names, yes, they're names, but a lot of them have been smaller. The Linares is the exception, which was an impressive win. And it also showed us something about Lomachenko in the sense that he got knocked down in that fight, but he got up and he was able to beat his guy, who was, top lightweight for that division. And with Inoue, I think we're very quick to, these guys that have not very many fights, we're quick to say like, oh, well, that's a career, or he's done so much in his career. But, we need to give these guys time to kind of breathe and have an actual career where they start to get fights and names underneath their belt. And, there's no doubting that Inoue is a very talented guy that's, come out of the gates. But I think, with this tournament and some other, big fights that, they can make, even coming out of this tournament, maybe there could be some interesting matchups that we can make, or if he moves up, I think, he's going to have time to be able to prove himself. And for me, it's the fighters that, kind of prove themselves through a course of many fights versus, hey, you had, a couple great performances or you've knocked out all your opponents, but you're like 9-0, like that's, to me, isn't a career, but that's just me.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
Not yet. Not yet. He has to, the tournament is going to probably help him build into that resume, but a lot of it also has to do with how much he's going to be seen on American markets, because I agree with Jacob a lot. Where a lot of the networks and media are the ones that have Lomachenko number one right now are mostly American media. So as he's seen more people, he's going to climb up on the list, but he hasn't really faced the real level of opposition that now you can honestly say Lomachenko has faced at his career. And say what you want about how he did it, but Lomachenko is a three-weight division champion. Like I said, say the way he did it, say all you want, but that's something that Inoue can't legitimately say, because the belt that he wants is still a secondary title. It's not the full belt. So give him time. We could probably have that conversation around this time in 2019. So we have to give it time.
And we all know Bud's number one.
Who's the we? Who's the
Bud.
we?
Bud's the pound for pound.
We may say that, but a lot of other folks don't. A lot of other folks act like a lot of folks act like Bud don't exist anymore now that Lomachenko is on ESPN winning.
Well, he certainly was last year, no question. I mean, was he the fighter of the year last year? I think that was one of the easier calls, truly. But it isn't 2017 anymore. It's 2018. And he's moved up a weight division. And, in our sport, you hear a lot of people talking, and what you realize they're saying and thinking is, what have you done for me lately?
Yeah. And as an aside, I would argue that well, never mind. I'm gonna save that argument later. I would just say that I can make an argument. I'm not going to go there now, because for me, you can say that Lomachenko has defeated quote unquote better opposition. but I would say that Inoue has been just as impressive. Um, Lomachenko ain't knocking these dudes out and bodying these dudes like Inoue is. He just isn't. And that Salido loss still is in my head. Still is in my head. Uh, he does have a loss on his record. Um, as great as he is, a loss is a loss. While Inoue hasn't been close to losing, and though it was a quote regular belt, I would still count McDonnell as a world champ, and he's a legit guy at 118 pounds. Maybe not the best, but he's still a legit guy. So I would technically count Inoue as a 3 division champion. But that's just me, based on who they beaten, based on who they are as fighters. Uh, I'm not saying that he's number one, like a lot of people have Lomachenko, but I'm just saying, based on who they are in their resume, I'm just saying there's an argument. I'm just saying there's an argument. Let's move on and go back to 115. Go back to the card, ESPN Plus card. Quickly talk about Cal Yafai, David Carmona for those who saw the fight, comments on the fight, and as well as the prospect of a unification bout down the road with Jerwin Ancajas.
I thought it was a pretty good fight. You know, some you know, they both, you know, hurt each other, and then eventually, you know, damage was done, and you know, Yafai got the win. But you know, I think it's kind of a no-brainer that they're gonna try to get this fight for the unification going. I mean, they're under the same banner. You know, Top Rank's been doing a good job of promoting this ESPN Plus, which I'm a subscriber to, and I love it. And you know, I'm going to be using it this weekend, even when I'm at a live fight. You know, so it was an entertaining fight. You know, as long as it lasted, and you know, I'd be excited to see, you know, that matchup and, you know, give more clarity to the division.
I was thinking Daniel and Gail, that the only thing that could deter that unification bout between Ancajas and Yafai is a possible fight between Yafai and Chocolatito on the Superfly 3 card. But given all the issues in Nicaragua with Chocolatito, who still has not been officially granted license to even box in the States now, that fight is down. That fight is kaput for right now. So, being that the case, thoughts on Yafai's performance as well as a unification fight down the road between him and Ancajas. First you, Daniel, and then you, Gail.
Let me think about this for a minute. Okay. At least with the performance of Yafai, it's what I expected. He did pretty well. And it's an expected outcome because Carmona wasn't really going to be too much of a threat for Yafai. Matchroom pusher fighters like that for a reason. The issue is going to be, like you mentioned, that if people don't know the Chocolatito situation, he right now can't get a work visa to come here in the U.S. from Nicaragua. And the only way he can get licensed back in California so he can participate in Superfly 3, he has to have a neurological test done in California. Which, by the way, is pretty hard to do if you can't get a work visa. That's the main delay in that fight, but what's going to be interesting if you put those two fights together is who's going to win out, because among what the streaming is, because Kaya fights with Matchroom, Arcanius is with Top Rank. Both of them now have their own separate entities for streaming. And you know that Eddie Hearn is looking to build a card to launch that stream. And I don't know if Aram or VSPN or Top Rank are particularly willing to put out one of their fighters on a rival streaming service, unless they do some type of simulcast. So to me, that's probably going to be the interesting part of it because it would be a decent fight. Two skilled guys. Both of them are getting to or getting close to being in their prime. It'll be an interesting matchup. We just have to see how those details start to get worked out.
Your thoughts, Gail?
I don't have a lot to add to what Daniel had to say, but I will say that Yafai's performance, I give him a little more credit. David Carmona took a pretty slick, before he had all his problems, Carlos Cuadras rounds. Now, Carmona fought him very tough. He's no pushover. So, yeah, was it set up for Yafai to win and, look good? Yes. But this was not a taxi cab driver. So I think Yafai would make a good showing of himself against Ancajas. I think he is willing to take the right kind of chances, where I look at Ancajas and I just think of him as sometimes being a little too careful. And that can really make the difference. Sometimes you have to gamble to win big.
Not mad at the fight, at the prospect of a unification bout between the two. Let's hope it happens. Let's get to some news here. The drama, the saga that is trying to get this fight between Canelo and Triple G to happen, this rematch. Now, according to Golden Boy, the fight is off. And I'll go to you first, Gail. I'm hearing that they were very close to an agreement, but at the last minute, Triple G upped his demands, wanted 50%. De La Hoya stuck to his guns of, I think, was it 35, 40%, and now the fight is off. Here, and they're trying to make a fight between Canelo and Daniel Jacobs. Rumors running rampant all over the place. What do you think of all this mess? I mean, folks talking about how difficult it is to make Joshua and Wilder. This seems worse.
It does seem worse, doesn't it? And very much like Joshua and Wilder, I do think the Canelo-Golovkin rematch will happen eventually. But damn, boxing fans are just an impatient sort of group. They want to see their guys in the ring. They want to see their favorites and the best fight the best. Everyone get it on. And sometimes, the calendar and how people are negotiating with each other and various slights and hurts and egos and money and all this stuff gets messed up and in the way. And make no mistake, all this whole spiral of events started with bad drug tests by who?
Canelo.
Yeah, he, but now we're to the point where we're on the playground across on the other side from where the whole thing started, with two guys still pointing at each other going, he started it. And it's so far after the fact, you don't really know. I think that Tom Loeffler, Golovkin's promoter, and Oscar, left to their own devices, could have made it happen. I think finally, for once, Golovkin, who normally is, very easy to deal with, he seems like a very steady character. I think he's just butthurt over the whole thing. I think he's just pissed. I think he's finally showing a little ego. And make no mistake, by digging in his heels the way he has, not realizing, we can give and take and talk and negotiate and it'll swing back and forth, that, maybe you'll get somewhere that you can finally live with. But he decided to draw a line in the sand. There's just not anything you could do with that. I'm not convinced that even if they negotiated in good faith, this fight would have happened anyway. Number one, Golovkin wants to move along on the calendar. After the fight got derailed, Canelo, let us all remember, had knee surgery. Now, nobody's really sure just how serious that was. But if you ask me, even knee surgery that for you or I would be considered, pretty minor stuff, you're talking about, a top of the line athlete who's absolutely got to rely on having everything in the best possible working order. And I wouldn't want to get in the ring and test my knee in a fight against Golovkin in a rematch with the stakes so high. I'd want a tune-up fight. And I would make no excuses for that. I don't have a problem with that personally. So I was never convinced we were going to see this rematch in September anyway. I still think once everyone calms down and everyone has another couple fights underneath their belt, they'll regroup in May of next year if it still makes sense for everyone. In the meantime, it truly doesn't really matter who Canelo fights. If he fights in Las Vegas, he's going to fill the seats. Hell, he sold out the T-Mobile Arena against you-know-who. The fighter.
Your favorite fighter?
The fighter who shall not be named, right? He sold out against him, okay? So the other issue, though, and I do have a little tiny, yes, I'm going to say it, conspiracy theory. Where's Scorsese when you need him, right? All right. So, no doubt, in addition to everybody's being so disappointed about this fight not coming off here a month ago, that was a major financial blow to Golden Boy and Oscar because Canelo is the guy making him a lot of money. Now, if Oscar can put a fight together for Canelo in September, tune up, test his knee, get butts in the seats, try to get back some of his money, and he owns both ends, he's much better off. He can come close to getting back some of the money he lost in May. And if he puts a fight up for Canelo against Spike O'Sullivan, who he also promotes, he owns both ends of the deal, all the money stays in Golden Boy's hands, and that's what I think is going to happen because money talks above all in boxing. And, if there's going to be a tune-up fight, as you like to say, Michael, I don't hate that fight. I don't hate it too much. Now, let's go to the other side. And here we've got Golovkin, who apparently is wound up tight as it gets. And now they find out from the IBF that apparently, as of tonight, they have stripped that belt. So now they got to deal with that shitstorm over there. Who knows where that's going to finally end up. I think that we'll still see a fight with Golovkin and Derevchenko. It'll still be for the belt. Maybe it'll be a vacated title. Neither of them has it. They both got to earn it back no matter what. That's fine with me. And then we see what happens from there. Down the road at the end of the year, there's discussion about Golovkin going to Tokyo to fight Ryota Murata. I love that.
That's what Bob Arum wants.
I tell you what, that's a hell of a card. That's a moneymaker for everybody. That's a spectacle. And Golovkin is willing to stamp his passport. He always has been. That doesn't bother him a bit. So I'd love to see the stars align. And if that's the way the rest of the year goes for these two, I don't hate it. Just, stop the talking and get on with what you're going to do, everybody.
In short, be adults about this.
Yeah. There's just a lot of butthurt little boys on the playground right now. Come on. Get a grip on yourself and get back to business.
Listen, if folks tolerated and defended Triple G fighting Veins, can't be mad at should Canelo go out and fight a Spike O'Sullivan. I'm just saying. I'll go to you, Jacob, and you can follow up, Daniel. If this is true, that Golovkin basically came in at the last moment, upped his demands, and the fight was canceled or postponed as a result, does this change your perception of one Triple G?
Yeah, it does for me. And again, I think the word you were looking for, Gail, previously was diva. These guys have become divas now. No,
No, well, no. See, diva to me is a more permanent status, I guess. You know, that's
Canelo's a permanent diva. Looks like Triple G is being a one-time diva with this.
I think he's just butthurt. Yeah, I just think he's pissed, and you know, people who don't see him very often or don't interact with him or talk to his camp, you know, think he's Mr. Rogers all the time. Oh no, you know, that guy can get pretty damn mad, and there's no way he doesn't have that in him. The way he fights, you know, when you want to go in the ring and hurt somebody, you can get pissed off, you know. And it's funny, I don't even think of Canelo as a diva. You know,
I do.
Miguel Cotto was the one that had the rep as a diva, although
both of them were.
They're both divas.
Yeah. Well, that, you know, Cotto softened in his old age. You know, I didn't see it, but yeah. But I digress. Please continue.
Yeah. So I mean, so there's a bunch of things here. Again, Gail stated it. This all got started because Canelo. You know, when I was at the fight, with the Martirosyan versus Golovkin fight, people, you know, the Canelo fans are yelling, fight Canelo. And I'm like, hey, he was trying to fight him, but the motherfucker didn't pass his drug test. So, you know, and he's suspended. He can't fight if you're suspended. So, you know, that being said, my opinion, though, is that Golovkin, if he had agreed for the rematch to be whatever, I think it was 70-30 split or whatever it was, and to, you know, finally, you know, he gets past this fight. They're trying to make the negotiations. You know, Canelo, you know, he wanted him to be submit to VADA testing. Canelo did that. Everything's good. And then he says, okay, I want the 50-50. I believe Golden Boy said, hey, we were willing to go to 60-40. That should have been enough to make the fight. But as Gail alluded to, maybe, you know, he's hurt by the whole thing. And maybe because of the first fight in Vegas, him thinking that he won, and a lot of people thinking he won, and him, you know, it being a draw, maybe he thinks that, oh, I can't get a fair shake. You know, if it goes a decision, I'm not going to get a fair shake regardless in Vegas against Canelo. You know, so, hey, I'm gonna make a crazy demand. But the thing that's backfiring on Golovkin is that, you know, he's supposedly about all the belts. He's now going to lose one of his belts. You know, he's now going to have to get that back. And then plus, you know, you got the Billy Joe Saunders thing, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But, you know, as far as the conspiracy, Canelo, I mean, with the knee thing, I mean, from what I'm hearing, they're offering Danny Jacobs the fight. And I think that Golden Boy is playing with fire. And let's remember, Golden Boy has not had the greatest month. They had Linares, who they co-promote, lose. They had what's the name, Jojo Diaz lose. And I think if Canelo fights Jacobs is going to beat him. And I'm saying that now. So if they actually make that fight happen, no matter where it's at, I think Jacobs beats him.
You saying Jacobs beats Canelo?
Yes, I'm saying that.
Your thoughts, Daniel? If you're around, Daniel. Okay, go ahead.
Well, let's get things straight. Like we talked about conflicting reports. Last night is when this popped off. Dan Rayfield's the one that put it out, that saying that first off that Canelo said the trainers left the station and they're trying to negotiate with Danny Jacobs. Not so long after, Steve Kim points out, I just talked to Tom Loeffler, and as far as they know, they're still talking about the fight. They talked about it, like I said, at the time that he tweeted today, we're scheduled to talk again tomorrow. So, to me, it's still a leverage game. To me, it's still Oscar, like I said, putting his foot in the ground, saying you're not getting 50-50. We still control the business side. And the most you're going to do is 40, which I think is ultimately going to wind up being 60-40. Because we're talking about two different types of leverage here. We're talking about sporting leverage and then business leverage. If it's sporting leverage, then Golovkin has everything. He has the belts. He's not the one that popped. And from a sporting perspective, you can say that Canelo needs to fight more than Golovkin does. The problem is, in boxing, sporting leverage really counts for not a lot. It's business leverage that counts. And like Jacob mentioned, you had a fight that didn't even involve Canelo, and you had Canelo fans yelling out, "Fight Canelo." That's how many fans he has. But also at the same time, we know something when it comes to Canelo. Canelo legitimately does care what his countrymen think of him. And right now, that reputation isn't exactly too shiny. So a fight with Spike O'Sullivan wouldn't probably, as much as it would sell, as much as it would keep the money in the Golden Boy house, it wouldn't solve the issue of Canelo rebuilding his reputation among Mexican fans, which is what he wants to do. Danny Jacobs could do that because he's one of the top middleweights in the division. Ultimately, though, I do think we're probably going to see this fight in September. Because with the Golovkin thing now happening, yeah, it's official. He's officially stripped. They've now, IBF apparently tomorrow is going to order, interesting enough, Derbachenko to fight Danny Jacobs. And if Danny Jacobs turns it down, next on the list, Jermell Charlo.
That's a good bout.
Yeah.
That's a really good bout.
Interesting enough, we have to remember.
Quick question, Daniel. Why wouldn't Golovkin, he was the champion, why wouldn't he be number one to fight for the belt?
Because the IBF, for all the crap that we give about sanctioning bodies, they're the one sanctioning body that at least sticks to their rules. And they don't rate their champions. They rate contenders. And
yeah, but he's not the champion. If he's been stripped, he's not a champion, so he doesn't have any ranking.
You used the key word there. He's been stripped. It wasn't like he lost it in the ring. He was stripped. This is a disciplinary action.
So then he's not ranked anymore.
He's not technically ranked right now. They're going by the rankings as what they have currently. Pretty much what they did when they stripped, the last time they stripped the belt, and when they stripped it from Jermaine Taylor, when he had his nervous breakdown. They went by the fighters that were ranked at the time. So, unfortunately, yeah, if Golovkin's going to have to fight, he's going to have to fight the winner of whoever's going to be Derbachenko versus Jacobs, Derbachenko versus Charlo, or even Derbachenko versus Andre, because he's the next man up after Charlo. Oh, by the way, did we mention at the top that those three, Derbachenko, Jacobs, and Charlo, are all Al Heyman guys? So it's a lot easier probably than to make and keep the belt within their ranks. So unfortunately, yeah, Golovkin doesn't get ranked because of a disciplinary action, and it's something the sanctioning bodies do need to fix. Jacob does bring up a point. They should be able to rank their champions, unless it's a horrible loss. Unless it's like a flat-out wash. They should be able to rank the champions that lose the belt enough times where they can at least fight to get the belt back. But unfortunately, Golovkin's not going to be in that case for the moment, and they're just going by the rankings that they currently have at the moment. Which actually throws a little monkey wrench into Golden Boy's plans, because what if Danny Jacobs says yes? What if Eddie Hearn has, look, it's a free belt. You'll probably win it, and guess what? It makes your fight with Canelo or your fight with your rematch with Golovkin that much bigger, because then you actually have an actual belt.
Yeah, but I don't know. The payday might be too much to turn down.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. But the funny part is, like I said, if Jacobs turns it down, Jermell's there. And Jermell
no way they fight Jermell. No way.
Well, also one other reason why I don't see Jacobs fighting, they're both trained by Andre Rozier. And we know he'll pick Brooklyn before he'll pick Eastern Europe. So there's that aspect. But Derevchenko fighting Jermell, I could see Al just saying yes, do this fight. It gives Jermell a title. And then they'll say, you know what, Eddie Hearn, you have this boatload of money. Let's fight and let's put, because apparently PBC fighters are fine to go into the streaming service. Let's fight for that big amount of money, and we'll keep all the money in-house. Kind of like what Gail said Golden Boy's trying to do with Canelo and O'Sullivan. But we have to see how it fairly shapes up, because if Golovkin really is about the belts, that journey just got a whole lot messier.
Which he's in danger of losing his WBA if he doesn't fight Charlo, right?
It doesn't fight Jacobs.
I mean, no.
WBC.
He's in danger of losing the WBC if he doesn't fight.
Sorry. Yeah, WBC.
Yeah, which we know that's why the only way to avoid it is to fight Canelo. That's the bad part about it is. I get what Golovkin's doing. Like I said, I get what he's doing. It's a matter of principle. And in many ways, I can agree with it, because you were not the one in the wrong in this situation. But principle sometimes in a sport where principle really doesn't matter much in a lot of ways will get you hurt. It already cost him a belt, and it could possibly cost him two.
But get the belts, it cost him a lot of money.
Well, he could probably still make the same amount of money if he fought Canelo, if it was just mainly for one belt. He will still probably make the same amount of money. What he'll probably lose, what he loses, is, like I said, it's that journey, because the guy's going to turn 37 years old, and you're going to make him try to chase all four belts again.
But the point is, Daniel, what we all agree to, Canelo's a diva. Golden Boy, they're divas. Do you think they're just going to all of a sudden up there to agree with Golovkin wanting 50% of the purse? Hell no.
They're not going to agree. That's why the person that has to give in is Golovkin. He's going to want to have to say, okay, I'll take 40%. It's 5% more than what it would have gotten before, but it's something, because, like I said, I get it. You can call it stubbornness, you can call it principle, but that just cost him a belt. And like I said, in the world where if he gets two belts taken away, that means he only has one belt. Once again, the division is completely divided, and it becomes infinitely harder for you to try to unite those divisions again, because everybody's going to go back to protecting their corners at that point.
You can make an argument that it actually did cost him two belts already, because if he didn't fight Canelo, he still has the three belts, and he fights Billy Joe Saunders instead of him fighting Murray, or if that whatever happened with that negotiation, he could have unified. But now that because he chose to fight Canelo pops, time goes by, Billy Joe Saunders gets booked for another fight against Murray, which isn't going forward. And then now he's lost his IBF belt. So he had an opportunity. He lost his opportunity for the WBO belt because he chased Canelo, and he just lost his IBF.
Sorry. We can go about this all day. Let's move on to some other news, heavyweight news that broke today. Looks like Dillian White is going to fight Luis Ortiz. Word is an announcement is going to happen tomorrow. Looks like, guys, we're going to see a elimination bout between Dillian White, Luis Ortiz, July 28th at the O2 in London. Your thoughts about this? Anybody who wants to respond, please do.
Given all the dance partners in that division and where they're all at, it made a lot of sense. Probably the best both of them could do for the moment. And I'm always glad when these guys stay active and stay in the ring. This is exactly the right thing for Ortiz to do. And if White looks good, there's some doors opening for him. The theme of the show tonight for me is becoming, I don't hate it. I don't hate it. I just keep finding myself saying that over and over. It's true. It's just really an odd boxing summer, guys. It just is.
Yeah, I'm with Gil here. I mean, I don't hate it. And there's actually another fight that I heard got potentially being worked out between Jennings and Parker, which I think is a fantastic fight. So the heavyweight division, as long as they keep on mixing and matching and making these fights, and of course we all want to see that Wilder Joshua fight. You got to keep these guys active, keep them fighting. Bring clarity, because there's got to be a winner, loser, or even if it's a draw. There's some type of public opinion that's formed. So hey, keep them fighting. I agree with Gail.
I'll agree with both Gail and Jacob here. I'm not mad at this. Stay busy fight, high profile fight for both guys, particularly Dillian White. While everybody's waiting for a possible bout between Joshua and Wilder, why not let these cats fight? I'm not, again, let it happen. Let it happen. This is good for me. This is all good. Your thoughts, Daniel?
Let it be said that Eddie Hearn will find a way to get revenge on a person that does him wrong as far as the purse bid. Because remember, not too long ago, Dillian White and Kudapulev were in a purse bid that was won by a very, very obscure promotion from New Jersey. Blew Eddie Hearn's purse completely out of the water. So it makes all the sense in the world to put it now with Ortiz. It keeps him in the matchroom umbrella, and it keeps him, Dillian White, in that sphere where he's going to be fighting a high-profile fight that is going to get airtime, because we know this is probably going to be put on Showtime. And for Ortiz, this is a good bounce back in, because this is, by the way, this is Dillian White's, I think, fifth or sixth straight title eliminator fight in a row. And now he has to do with Luis Ortiz, and Ortiz gets a chance to possibly rectify what he wasn't able to do in round 7 against Wilder, which is capitalize and ultimately drop him. But we know what the attitude in boxing is. If you were knocked down the first fight, it's a lot easier to knock you down the second fight, because now the other guy knows what he's doing. So it's fun for me that, and you mentioned Jennings Parker. I don't mind that in the least. Keep these guys active, because between those fights, and I know we're going to talk about Fury later on, but as long as it keeps the division active, it keeps us away from the overall mess that is right now the Wilder Joshua negotiations.
Again, I would argue that this thing with Canelo and Triple G is even worse right now. But again, let these two cats fight. Coming off of the knockout loss to Wilder, Dillian for Luis Ortiz, coming off the showcase bout with I know it's Lucas Brown. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna give him too much praise for that win, but it was a showcase bout on HBO. A lot of guys got to see him for the first time on HBO in a high-profile bout. So yeah, again, as I said before, this is all good. One last thing before we start previewing, what's happening this weekend. Your thoughts on the rumors of Anthony Joshua fighting Povetkin next, and a possible announcement coming within the next week or so?
I don't like it. I'm not a big Povetkin supporter because of his past mistakes, and so I personally don't think that guy should be getting top fights. And again, I want to see Wilder Joshua. They both got past their guys, and I don't want that to be the fight that kind of like the Stevenson versus Kovalev fight that we ask for every year and year, and then it just it washes away. So that's the fight I want to see. I don't want to see Povetkin.
Gail, Daniel.
And I'm fine with this too. Once again, everybody's finding dance partners. Everybody's getting in the ring. They're all going to keep busy. We're going to see them all in action, against each other. And that's a far cry from what we were just talking about, where everyone's just arguing and yammering and belts getting taken away and this and that. Who would have thought the heavyweight division at this point had a bunch of guys staying busy and mixing it up and not avoiding each other. I mean, the one big fight at the top of the mountain, hasn't been made yet. But the rest are finding dance partners. Before the music stops, everyone's finding a chair. It's good. It's all good. This is the kind of stuff we want to see happen.
Let me say this before I go to Daniel. I'm agree with Jacob here. I know why the fight is happening. And given Povetkin's position in the rankings, it almost has to happen because he's, I think, number one or mandatory by one of the sanctioning bodies. But it doesn't mean I have to like it, because of the sordid. I'm gonna be polite here and say the sordid history of Alexander Povetkin. Why does this dude continue to be rewarded? Given his failures, given his repeated positive tests for PEDs. I don't like it. I know the reason why he's getting rewarded because he has some very, very powerful folks behind him, and the sanctioning body is going to cater to that. The problem is because he has powerful people behind him and the sanctioning bodies cater to that. That is a sad indictment on the sport. Lack of principles here. Someone repeatedly getting opportunities despite their own personal failures, faults. I'm not cool with it. In short, I'm not cool with it one bit. I'm gonna go to Daniel. Your reaction to this rumor bout between Joshua and Povetkin?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised in the least because I'm making a assertion right now when, like I said, we talked about negotiations between Wilder and Joshua. Apparently, Eddie Hearn is trying to say, Joshua, this fight has to be in UK, acting like that's going to be a deal breaker and Wilder's going to walk away. At some point, you just have to say, Eddie, we get it. You don't want to make the fight. Not right now. So, handle the business of the mandatories. And hopefully they make an announcement soon because, like we mentioned with the Dillian White situation, Eddie Hearn doesn't like to do purse bids. At least doesn't like to put money in the purse bids. And if this goes to a purse bid, we know the Russians are going to blow it out of the water, which means Joshua has to go to Russia to fight Povetkin. I get it. I understand it. I'm with you, Mike, though. I don't like it. I don't think Alexander Povetkin deserves a shot at the heavyweight title. But at the end of the day, it's something that if it keeps Joshua busy, at least it works out. Because then when the IBF situation, we know it's going to get handled because Pulev now has to find a dance partner again. WBA is being handled now with Povetkin. WBO, that's the only one that probably doesn't have a clear mandatory right now. So I get it keeps him active, but I agree. I don't have to like this. I don't like the fact that we're rewarding somebody like Povetkin to get a championship fight and possibly have home turf in the fight while we're at it.
I mean, again, it's, the powerful 1% presides again. Even in the case of Anthony Joshua, who's arguably the most popular athlete, most popular boxer in the world right now. I mean, really? Is this what we have to deal with now? I'm part of me is just disgusted by this. When when this kind of back the scenes power and deal breaking happens, and the fighter reaps this kind of rewards in this regard. I honestly can't stand it. But again, boxing being boxing, when I say when boxing is bad, we will talk about it. To me, this is the bad side of boxing. Again, I'm not cool with it. Let's move on and start shutting the show down by previewing some fights that's happening this weekend. I may split this up between the three of you guys. Headline bouts. I'll go to you, Gail. Jeff Horn, Terence Crawford. For me, Horn coming from Australia to the U.S. to defend the belt in Vegas on ESPN Plus. I don't like the talk from Jeff Horn and his camp. The fact that you out here complaining about the heat in the gym, really? Really?
But it's a dry heat, isn't it?
Really?
I think that's about something else. I think the complaining is about somebody realizing they jumped into the deep end of the pool and didn't understand they were going to have to tread water down there, and it's rough. It's rough. The current's rough. Yeah, I think, understandably, when Jeff Horn had his hand raised in victory against Manny Pacquiao, agree or disagree with the outcome. You had to understand how elated a guy like that would be. What a dream come true in front of your hometown fans, all cheering for you. It's great. Yeah, he's been treated like a hero ever since. What a ride, huh? I mean, you can't write the script like that. It's the stuff that everybody as a little boy wanting to be a champion thinks about. And now reality is hitting the man. And here he is, and the fight's for real, and the venue's for real, and it's coming at him probably like a freight train. And he's saying, oh, no, what did I get myself into? And suddenly that winner's attitude, turns to a little bit of fear. And frequently fear is masked by anger, by people lashing out. That's what I think you've got with an otherwise, what everyone says is a nice guy in Jeff Horn. Because he's looking across there at Bud, and everybody knows what Bud is like in the ring, no matter what he's like outside the ring. And everybody's got different opinion depending on how you know him. What everyone does agree with is once he gets in the ring, he's got one of the finest mean streaks in boxing and knows how to use it.
Yeah, and ESPN did a story on that, kind of the dichotomy of Terence Crawford, how
what the best boxers
his upbringing, the way he was raised, how he was raised. That mean streak is not just something, a facade here or just some show. It's legit.
He's taking out a lot of his frustration from his youth in the ring. And thank goodness he does have this healthy avenue to channel it. And I recommend anybody listening to our report about this, find the piece on ESPN's website under the boxing section. There's a long essay by Mark Kriegel, which is well worth your time. Crack a beverage and read it. Super interesting. Whatever you think of him as a analyst on TV, he's an exceptional profile writer, and he really dug deep into Crawford's background. There's also an accompanying video where Teddy Atlas sits down with Terence and they watch his fight with Ndongo. And Terence isn't always the best interview, but analyzing his fight and speaking with Teddy, you can tell he's in a comfortable place to do the interview. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was very good. It's so funny to me because Bud, outside the ring with fans, with people, not in a media situation, if you walk up to him or you see him in a group or you approach him, charming, talkative, relaxed, nicest guy in the world. But yeah, he's got some demons that he's never quite put to rest. And for boxing fans, that's fine. It works because he's going to see them all dancing in front of his face in the body of Jeff Horn on Saturday. And he wants to make a nice big splash as he moves up to welterweight. Maybe Jeff Horn has trained well, will put up some resistance, go a few rounds. I don't know. I think he'll be so confused, so deer in the headlights. You thought Inoue had McDonnell deer in the headlights. I think it's going to be very similar with Crawford and Horn. It may not, be over as quickly, but I think the result is going to be very, very much the same. Now, remember, everybody, this is what we were talking about earlier. The ESPN Plus app is where this fight is going to air. You need to buy up for your $4.99. And anybody, if I hear grumbling out there, bitching and moaning, I gotta pay $4.99 for this. Well, pay $4.99 for this, and you've got it for the whole month. It's not just boxing. Darn well you piss away $5 somehow this month. Otherwise, pay up, pay them what they're worth, show some support for this, and this is going to be a dandy little product. We're going to have a lot of content, and I think it's going to be worth every bit of your $5.
I was pretty sure heading into this bout that Buddy Crawford would beat Jeff Horn, but given the rumblings I'm hearing from the Horn camp, the week of the fight, I'm positive that Bud will not only win, but Bud will impress, and he will remind these fools out here who's the real #1 pound-for-pound fight in the world is right now. He's going to show that Saturday night in Vegas. He may not stop him because Jeff Horn is a tough, rugged guy, but he's going to beat him and beat him up. I have no doubt about it in my mind. You don't sit there and talk about complaining about the heat. What is that? And imagine if this was an old school 80s fight and the fight was outdoors. What are you going to do then? Oh, no, that's a bad move. That's something you just don't do. You just don't do at all. I'll go to you, Jacob. Going to move from that fight and talk about the doubleheader on Showtime. I'm going to split this up between you and Daniel. Going to give you the opportunity to talk about the main event of the Showtime doubleheader in L.A. Santa Cruz, Abner rematch for Santa Cruz super featherweight, WBA super champion at featherweights. Mars beat him Santa Cruz beat Mars the first time. And I know Mars has looked pretty impressive in his last few bouts, while Santa Cruz has split with Frampton. But to me, Jacob, styles makes fights. I just don't see Abner Mars beating this guy, no matter how many times they fight.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was there for the first fight, and I'll be there this weekend. And I'm not a huge Mars fan. I don't think it's been a while since he fought. I think his last fight was over a year ago when he fought Cuellar, and I was actually at that fight too. And I think Santa Cruz, as impressive as Mars maybe has been in the comeback trail, I think Santa Cruz has been even more impressive. So for me, I mean, this is Santa Cruz's fight to lose. The last fight, Mars came out, kind of pedal to the metal, guns blazing, and, made it was a really entertaining fight, and he was throwing a lot of punches, but, he started to gas. And we know Leo Santa Cruz isn't going to gas. He's just this kind of like a snowball rolling downhill. He just gets that momentum, and he keeps on pouring it on. And, in his excellent 2 fights with Frampton, I don't see any way that Maurice wins this fight. I think Santa Cruz is going to win the Battle of LA again and, stay champion and move on.
Sorry there, I was on mute. I'll go to you, Daniel, talk about the co-main event here. Jermell Charlo fighting Austin Trout. I look at this and I just think it's a case of uh, the good young man beating a guy who's a bit old here. Trout can trouble him because of the southpaw style, but Trout is also coming off of that loss to Jared Hurd. Uh, he may win the early rounds here, but I just think over time, um, Jermell Charlo, just going to wear him down and beat him by a decision or by a late round stoppage. Your thoughts?
This is probably going to be, in all honesty, Jermell's best test to date, as far since he's gotten that belt. Because you mentioned it when it came to Trout. He lost to Hurd, but it wasn't a complete wash. And then before that, someone can make a case that he probably beat Jermell for the IBF junior middleweight title. So it's going to be an interesting fight because we know Trout is very, very, very skilled for his age, and he know that he can actually set traps pretty well and can fight against elite competition. We all have to remember he did beat Miguel Cotto and beat him clean. So it's going to be an interesting fight. I could legitimately see this actually scene going to decision. We know Jermell has been on a hot streak when it comes to knockout us of late. But I could see a situation where Trout just simply outworks him. And ultimately, in the early rounds, but ultimately Jermell pulls through and he wins by decision. Unanimous decision. But I still say Jermell retains.
You mentioned that. I just think it's a case of Jermell has gotten better while Trout has gotten older. And I think that because Trout has gotten older or getting older, that's going to be the difference here. It's going to be the difference in my opinion. He again, it's by decision or by late round stoppage. But for me, Jermell Charlo is going to win this fight in my opinion. Let's go to the UK. This fight is going to be on Showtime YouTube and Facebook. The long-awaited return of one Tyson Fury, fighting a guy we've never heard of who's a cruiserweight. It is what it is. I'll go to you, Jacob. He's returning to the ring. I guess that's the best thing you can say given his opponent. He's finally fighting instead of talking. Your thoughts?
I can't stand this guy. I hope this cruiserweight nobody pulls a Cunningham and knocks him down, maybe even knocks him out, so we don't have to hear about Tyson Fury and how he's a second coming of Muhammad Ali and all this. I mean, the guy's he beats Vladimir Klitschko in one of the most boring fights I've ever seen in my entire fucking life, and he anoints himself the king of the world. And like you said, he just does a lot of talking. I don't think he's that great. Actually, I want him to win this fight. Have him fight Wilder, and then Wilder could put him to sleep and baptize him.
I'm going to give everybody an opportunity to talk about this, so open your mics up, Gail and Daniel, starting with you, Gail. Your thoughts on the return of one Tyson Fury?
Maybe I'm wrong, but do I sense a little bit of attitude in the tone of voice I've been hearing?
Just a little bit.
It's like a little bit of negativity hanging around here. Oh, my Lord. Yeah, Tyson Fury, heavyweight champion who will forever have an asterisk after his name because he was heavyweight champion for about a minute and a half in the blip of history, making his comeback. I suppose this will be of interest in the UK for sure. And there's a certain car wreck quality to this. You don't want to look, but you're going to look. Come on. We're all going to look at it. And to that end, Showtime was smart enough to pick up the feed, and they will show it to us American fans via their social networks. So you don't have to have the Showtime channel at home or on an app. You don't have to be paying for it. You can see it for free, either on their Facebook feed or their Twitter feed. I don't know if it's on anywhere else. YouTube probably feed as well. So any of Showtime's social channels, you can get a good look at it, and you know you're going to look at it. I mean, we're all curious. The guy's had so many problems, well documented. You know, he's fighting all his demons in public. Substance abuse issues, weight issues, mental health issues, and here he's going to get back in the ring. It doesn't really matter who it's against. You know, it's basically a glorified sparring session. We all get that. Well, we all want to get a really good look at him for the first time since that upset. So, yeah, we can all have attitude. I don't expect a whole lot. It is what it is, as they say, well-worn phrase, but you're all going to watch it. I know you are.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
Let me quote the heralded OT Genesis when it comes to Tyson Fury. He's in love with the Go-Go. He's going to win? For sure. Will I care? No. Because unfortunately, when you pick a guy that pretty much sounds like a Republican politician in a way with their fascination with two names that sound alike. Think about it. The guy's name is Seferi. And nobody from outside of Albania has heard of him. So we know what this is. Like Gail said, we know what this is. This is just an easy fight to get Fury back on the minds of UK fans, because we know us here on this side of the pond, we don't really care much about Tyson Fury. He wasted a golden opportunity when he had that heel promo with Wilder in 2016. He wasted it. Done nothing for the last 2 years. But the one place where if he wins, just by winning, he'll have a whole crap load of fans demanding that Anthony Joshua fight him, is the UK. Yes, we're going to watch it, but the real audience is going to be the UK. So even if he wins sparingly, if it looks a tenth of what he did against Klitschko, as far as skill set, we know you're going to hear his fan base be like, Joshua has to fight him. Joshua has to fight him. He's the real lineal champion. And it would be the only fight that you can make for Joshua with the UK market in mind that would be as big as the Wilder fight. And ultimately, that's what he's shooting for. Now, I would love it. Like I said, I would love it if, like Jacob mentioned, if we have Steve Cunningham part 2, Seferi knocks him down, and maybe this time knocks him out, because it's almost been 3 years since he last fought. But we know what this is. Luckily, this is going to be aired on streaming, so you don't actually have to sit down on the TV to watch this. You can sit down on your phone. You can watch it. Like we mentioned, it's a train wreck. And ultimately, like I said, this is just a fight to get him back in the lips of UK fans. And that's all pretty much Fury cares about at this point, because I think he's at least smart enough to know that he blew his chance to try to make himself a star here.
Last but not least, anybody want to talk about the undercard of this Fury bout? Return to the ring, and your favorite fighter, Daniel, Terry Flanagan fighting Maurice Hooker for the vacant belt at 140 pounds.
I can't believe you're gonna make me cheer for a Rock Nation fighter, considering what Rock Nation has been revealed to be as a promotion. That's what we're going with. Yeah, we're gonna be rooting the guy that didn't really look good and is promoted by a promoter that still is getting dragged for not helping out one of their fighters with brain damage.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah. We're gonna cheer for that guy over Terry Flanagan. And I'll do it. Because Terry Flanagan hasn't done anything to earn this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He's kind of lucky that Lomachenko decided to come to lightweight after he vacated. Because I would have paid good money to see Lomachenko embarrass the living crap out of Terry Flanagan. Especially after the fights that he had with Petrov. Petrov beat the crap out of that man. And the UK pulled some bullshit out of their bag to have him still retain it. So, yeah, I'm cheering for Rock Nation, folks. As despicable as that promotion has been shown to be, I'm actually rooting for Rock Nation, dear God.
Any thoughts on this, Gail, Jacob?
Oh, I ain't touching that.
Jacob?
Yeah, I don't got too much more to add. You got me all fired up with this Fury nonsense.
And I think on that note, we're going to shut down the show, shut down this episode. Go around the panel here, starting with Gail. Begin the show starting with ladies first. Going to end the show with ladies first. Gail from Communities Digital News, for those who want to talk the sweet science. For those who want to talk small business advice, dancing with the stars, environmental issues, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, or the Vegas Golden Knights are just breaking my heart, man.
Oh, they're about to lose.
Oh, they're about to lose big. But, still a great accomplishment. But, oh, man, that last game was ugly. You can find me when I'm not crying in my beer about that stuff at Communities Digital News, which is COM, C-O-M-M, Digi, D-I-G-I News, comdiginews.com. And on the horizon, keep the faith, everybody. There's always a fight to be seen somewhere. All the club stuff is going on in LA. In fact, Hollywood Fight Night is underway right now. So after we're done, you want to check out Tom Loeffler's new club fight series out of Hollywood. It's underway tonight, so worth a look. And we're going to have a little visit with one Rougarou, Regis Prograis, next week, doing a media event in LA. So keep an eye out for that.
Yeah, he's looking for a fight to defend. I think he has an interim belt at 140 pounds. He's looking for a fight, possibly in his hometown, possibly on the West Coast. Who knows? He's a good for the sport. Improving fighter and a good personality.
Well, and so smart of him to just do a nice meet and greet, a little workout, little interviews in LA for a lot of the fight media out there who haven't had a chance to see him up close.
And I think Prograis is going to be a part of that junior welterweight portion of the World Boxing Super Series as well. So overall, a good look for him. Smart move on his part. I'll go to you, Daniel. Daniel from The Inscriber, for those who want to talk the sweet science. For those who want to talk the NBA, the Miami Heat in particular, let the folks know where they can hit you up.
Yes, folks, you can find me on Twitter at Ruckus99. You can find the shows at 4boxingnews.com with the good folks at 4Boxing News, although we may be expanding beyond that and beyond SoundCloud. Be on the lookout for that. And like I said, from last week, and it's going to talk about these fights, including now. Apparently, Tom Loeffler has let the cat out of the bag. Triple G is now willing to move from 50-50 to fight Canelo in September.
Why am I not surprised? He came to his senses.
51-49.
He don't want to miss that payday. I keep telling y'all, he don't want to forego that payday. Not at this stage of his career. Jacob from Jab Hook, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk movies, let the folks know where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks again for Mike for having me on, and a shout out to Gail and the ladies on the, I think it was 3 weeks ago, maybe, the Ladies Loves Boxing episode number 4 or 5. That was a great
4.
episode. So yeah, I mean, I thought they showed, they know their stuff, and they did great. It was a great episode. So congratulations to them.
Thank you very much.
And yeah, I could be found on Twitter, JRATM23. Or if you're going to be at the fights, I'll be there on Saturday, and pretty much any of the local fights. I try to go to the bigger fights, and I'll make my way out to one of those 360 promotion ones. And then I did have a appearance on a film podcast, Wrong Reel, film podcast by James Hancock, and we did the films of Tony Scott. So that's available on iTunes and all major podcast listening.
First, a couple of notes here. If you listen to the show in the past, we had a guest often on the show, Gus from Corruption and Boxing. Give special condolences to him. He has suffered some losses within his family, including multiple family members. So I want to spend a special condolences to him and his family first and foremost. Also, want to give a shout out to Three Kings Boxing, For Boxing News, who you mentioned, Daniel, as well as Ring News 24. I wrote a piece on Naoya Inoue during the time off. Wrote a piece for him. You can also see it on Pound for Pound Boxing blog. They put it on their subsequent boxing online pages. So want to give a shout out again to For Boxing News, Ring News 24, Three Kings Boxing. And if you check out each of their sites, and you just do a simple search of Naoya Inoue, you can see my work there. For those who want to talk boxing or music or fitness with me, you know what it is. Brother JR76 on Twitter. As I said to begin the show, want to find out all things regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, blog page is the place to go to. P4P Boxing Report .wordpress.com. That's the link. You check the right of the page, the blog page. You'll find links to our channels: Facebook, G+, YouTube, Twitter, Tumblr. Twitter handle is at P4P Boxing Report. If you also check the right of the page, you can find links to where to listen to the show: SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Player FM for the folks in the UK, as well as Mixcloud. And I mentioned you want to talk fitness with me. If you check the mid portion right part of the page, you can check out the links to my Beachbody online fitness site. I'm an online coach for Beachbody.com, so be sure to check that out as well. If you're interested in like stuff like P90X, Insanity, Body Beast, if you're interested in products like Shakeology and stuff like that, please check me out. Check out my link there. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Horn and Crawford, the rematch between Santa Cruz and Abner, the fight between Jermell, Charlo, Austin, Trout, Tyson Fury returning to the ring, as well as Flanagan and Hooker. And we will do a preview of my choice right now as the #1 welterweight in the world, Errol Spence Jr. He's defending his belt in his home state of Texas against mandatory challenger. It's a junior featherweight world title on the line on the undercard. I think Danny Roman is fighting Moises Flores. So we would do a preview of those bouts. Excuse me. So yeah, for Gail from Communities Digital News, Jacob from Jab Hook, Daniel from The Inscriber, I'm your host, Michael. This has been episode 210 of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.